All right, let's take a look at where we're at now. Because tonight's games, there's still two going. Nashville's tied with Anaheim as I'm doing this. Montreal's tied with Vancouver. But there's been some interesting movement here. Now, Columbus, with three straight shutouts, have moved past Pittsburgh. They have more regulation or overtime wins, so they would get home ice advantage if those two teams tie in points. The Rangers, with that win, they're 15 points clear of the New York Islanders, who have that other wild card spot. Toronto, 72 points, and Philly leapfrogs into the picture. So the East just continues to confound me. Absolutely confound me. For Florida, really, really costly loss tonight. That really hurt. Reimer fell apart. Um, they can't afford to have him doing that again. So Florida falls back. Buffalo loses another one. They fall back. There was an article on, I believe, Sportsnet about whether or not Buffalo would have been further ahead if Eichel hadn't been hurt this year. I think they'd be further ahead, but I don't know how much further. Um, Even with Eichel in the lineup, it's been sort of an up and down struggle for them. With the loss that Detroit suffered tonight, and it was, I mean, I know they came back to make it a one-goal game, but Toronto held that game really well. Um, Detroit's done. They're 11 points back now with 18 games left. Out west, huge loss for Minnesota to St. Louis. Huge win for St. Louis. They put 3 points between themselves and the Kings with 17 games left. And a character win for St. Louis. These are the key wins they hadn't been getting lately, and now they've started getting them again. So, would the real St. Louis Blues please stand up? Jake Allen looked really good in what I saw of the game tonight. I watched about a period worth of it. Minnesota clutching their sticks a little bit tighter. It's tough. It's tough staying ahead of Chicago. Once the Hawks start playing like the Hawks, it gets really, really tough to hold them off. Now, if Nashville wins that game tonight, they would move 4 points ahead of St. Louis. If Nashville loses that game tonight, if they lose it in regulation, then they have a problem because St. Louis has more regulation or overtime wins than they do. So that gives St. Louis an advantage in that they'd have a game in hand on Nashville. Edmonton's loss tonight hurt. It hurt because, again, Anaheim and Nashville are tied. And that Edmonton-Anaheim run towards second place, whoever gets second place, that is a huge deal. Because whoever gets home ice, I believe, will probably win that series between the two. That's only if Calgary doesn't insert themselves in the picture. And here's the interesting thing. If Anaheim lost in regulation tonight to Nashville, let me just take a look. It's still 3-3 with 10 minutes left. Then they would be tied with Calgary, which they are right now, but they'd also be tied in number of games played. Calgary has more regulation overtime wins, therefore would leapfrog Anaheim, and in the first round we'd have Edmonton and Calgary. At that point, all of Alberta will go to war, and we will be treated to one of the greatest playoff series in some time. And then it sets up Anaheim playing San Jose in the first round, while St. Louis would play Minnesota. And as Minnesota found out tonight, St. Louis is ready to fight for what they have right now, which is a playoff spot. I think LA's put some fear into them, and they're playing better. And, it opens up a bit of a lead for St. Louis. Winnipeg's now 5 points back, and St. Louis has 2 games in hand on Winnipeg. It's an upward climb for Winnipeg no matter what they do, because the other teams have played less games. And when you've got multiple teams in front of you, it gets harder and harder to envision a route in which you can pass everybody and make the playoffs. Just with where we're at right now, here's the thing. So I look at the divisions, I look at the playoffs where we're at right now. Boston's suddenly in danger. Boston's on the clock again because the Islanders are 1 point back of them. Toronto's 2 points back of them. Philly's 4 points back of them. And I'm starting to get concerned that maybe Boston's peaked and they've started to do the nosedive again. It is definitely possible. Because there's a lot of teams behind them that are playing very well. In the West, I think Anaheim is vulnerable. I think with Calgary's run that they've been on, I think they're vulnerable, and Nashville's definitely vulnerable with St. Louis seemingly turning it around. But this is a situation that's changing night by night, and every night we seem to have new heroes stepping up. Bobrovsky has definitely stood up and played his role for Columbus. Freddie Anderson was good tonight. Mitch Marner. I wanted to make a comment here. Um, it's not a coincidence in my eyes that the Leafs win and Marner gets points tonight. Mitch Marner, realistically, if you look at who the MVP is for their team, I think Marner gets Calder. Now, realistically, it's going to go to Matthews. It's going to go to Laine, or Werenski's a long shot at it. But based on where Columbus is and their record and their defensive record, Werenski has a great shot. But Marner is full value. When Marner's going, it gets the rest of the team going. And when Marner was out those 5 games, you could tell there was a remarkable difference in the Leafs during those 5 games. And with him back, it's a more dynamic team, it's a more confident team, it's a faster team. He brings so much to the table that if I had a vote right now, I would be choosing between Matthews or Marner. And I would probably, based on the fact that the Leafs did kind of fall apart without Marner, I'd be leaning towards Marner right now. And Penguins fans, I'm sorry, I know Matt Murray's in the conversation as well, but I don't know. I guess he'll likely be one of the top 3 nominees. I could see it being Matthews, Laine, and Murray. I can't see Murray getting first place voting. As good as his numbers have been, he plays for Pittsburgh, defending Stanley Cup champions. And it is hard for a goaltender as a rookie to get votes for Calder when he's playing for the best team in the league. It's going to help his numbers. For Matthews, he's taken one of the worst teams in the league and turned them into a potential playoff team. Laine has given Winnipeg a huge weapon up front. He's one of the top goal scorers in the league, as is Matthews. And Werenski has been a beast in the top 4 on a Columbus blue line that's been really good this year. And Columbus looks like they're ready to potentially have home ice against Pittsburgh in the first round. So it is tough sledding if you want to get into that conversation. Really, really tough sledding. The Rangers win tonight was big for them. I think that if the Rangers from here on out want to have any chance, they have to get their momentum. I don't know what matchup I like better for the Rangers. I mentioned in a recent video they don't have a good record against Montreal. They might be better off if they can get past Pittsburgh and play Columbus in the first round. If Columbus gets that number 2 spot, I think a better matchup for the Rangers would be Columbus instead of Montreal. That just seems to be the way it's headed. But that would mean passing Pittsburgh, which is not an easy task on the best of days. Another, note, sort of noteworthy, other than the Islanders beating Edmonton in Edmonton, which gave me flashbacks to 1983. I'm old. Carolina losing tonight to Colorado, that should kill any talk among Canes fans that maybe if we can get a run going. No. 11 points out with 19 games left, it's done. The playoffs are not going to happen. There are some interesting stories, though, going on in that the Islanders are a very interesting story, and I think they're the real deal. I don't know that I'd want to play them in the first round, and they'd be first-round fodder for Washington. And I honestly think Washington would have a problem with the New York Islanders. I have a bad feeling Washington's going to have a problem with almost anybody in the first round. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And I did do the video tonight where I talked about all the goaltenders. Someone suggested I talk about all the backups. I had that idea in mind anyways. I want to discuss backups. I want to discuss power play point men. I want to discuss left wingers, right wingers, centers, all this stuff, and just basically as we go into expansion, ask the question: is hockey at its best right now? Is this the best, deepest league we've ever had? I think for me in my lifetime, it probably is. But I'm going to need the numbers to back it up, and I've got a lot of magazines to help back that up. So we'll see where those go and what happens from here. But let me know what you guys think about the action from tonight. Has this changed your mind about who you think is going to make the playoffs? Because it just changes from night to night. Um, and again, I still think Tampa, because of their weakness of their schedule, has the best chance. But tonight was the first game of 5 in a row that Toronto plays against teams with a worse record than them. If Toronto, I was going to say Tampa, if Toronto can make hay against these teams and beat the teams they're supposed to, they put a lot of pressure on the teams beneath them, and they can put some daylight between them and themselves and some other teams. I know they're behind the Islanders by 1 point, but they do have an easier schedule than the Islanders from here. There's a lot of moving parts to this. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all again tomorrow.